Alrighty, hey yo, what is up, Knights? Aegis Rick here, back with another DFO account dailies. Post-100 cap edition, let me tell you, 100 cap came with it a whole slew of changes. Basically, the dailies are getting crazy now, you know. There's a lot more dailies here in the Valley of the Fallen Souls, and I guess we'll start here. Not the most important ones, but I do want to kind of, before I go in here, talk about them. So we got two different pits. The first and second pit, I'll show that off again. And then the third, fourth, and fifth pit. Now, both of these pits are exclusive, and you get to choose 3 characters per pit, per day, and they do reset every day. So it's not important if you miss a day like the Tower of Dazzlement, which I have been missing. Basically, this whole week I've been missing a bunch of runs. But Tower of Dazzlement, you know, that's something you do 5 characters on your account, and every day matters since surprises progressively get better. The pits are more of like a exclusive 1-day type thing. So we'll jump into Tower of Dazzlement since we know what that is. You know, I've been slacking on this area mostly because I haven't been needing cards lately. And mostly, I mean, there's a lot of content to do in 100 cap now, you know. I think a lot of what I do with dailies is kind of focused around, you know, people not having much else to do. You know, my characters on my account, what else do they do aside from these dailies that can progress my whole account better? And when you get to this point, you know, in 95 cap, when you have all the best gear, it's like, well, there's not much else I can do but dailies. Well, nowadays there's a ton of shit I can do. You know, as you guys can see, my gear setup right now, I'm farming epics, got this Deus imagery, yo. But you know, if you don't have a upgraded, graduated accessory or sub equipment set, then you can get that. And you know, there's all kinds of stuff that can use your FP, use up your time, and mainly on this character, just doing a ton of hells. So we're going to be jumping into the first pit. Now, I recommend the first pit mostly because the second pit kind of feels like it's just for novelty. The rewards are essentially the same between the two. The second pit is definitely harder, and it's something that, you know, if you want a little bit of a challenge early on here, you know, and I do believe it gives like a title, various titles that are exclusive only to that area. And that's pretty much the only reason you do the second pit, you know, because after the novelty kind of wears off of you getting or doing the harder content, you're going to wonder, like, what's the point? And I kind of feel like that's the case really with content, with areas like that, where it's like, okay, when the novelty wears off, what's going to keep you farming the content? And that, in this case, it's just the rewards that I'm getting out of it. Now, you guys see every time I clear a room, I'm getting a bunch of shining sky fragments. Those are an account-bound resource, and not going to be as helpful for us in this cap. You know, shining sky fragments are an item that, you know, I'm racking up a sizable amount of them, but I'm not even using any of them. And the main reason that I'm doing this content is actually for the equipment that you get here. So you guys can see, this essentially has replaced the Tower of the Dead. Tower of the Dead used to be like a 1-second dungeon where you get a ton of equipment for free. Now I have to go through the first pit, and it takes a little bit longer. Not like it's any much harder, honestly, especially with 100 cap out. But, you know, you can get your cubes this way, or if you want, you can get some money that way, and that's why you do the first pit. I guess you could say you can get some shining sky fragments, but the sheer fact that even to this day, purchasing Tabor's items cost cost some gold to purchase Tabor's items. 2 million gold is still the requirement to purchase any kind of Tabor's item. So it makes you wonder, like, is Neopol psycho? I don't know what they're thinking. It's just a complete noob trap, I guess, if you're buying Tabor's items nowadays and using your sky fragments, and it still costs 2 million gold. Especially when you can get gear pretty much easier than that without having to spend any money. So, noob trap is the sky fragments. Until they remove the cost of purchasing items with the sky fragments, just hold on to them. Like I'm doing right here. I'm not using any of those until they remove the cost. And even then, because of how easy it is to get your legendary sets, I mean, I was able to finish this 3-piece set in a couple days here. You know, with how easy it is to get, just wait. Wait until they at least make this item viable. I have no idea why they decided to do that. Now, we're going to jump onto my striker to do more content. Unfortunately, I did a little bit on my EK already. You guys can see right here, it kind of talks about what they expect you to do with your exorcism rating. So you guys can see here, they want me to jump into Basement of Pain, either a normal expert. We will be showing that off, and that is a daily. I consider a daily something you do every single day. So yeah, first pit, I've already shown that off, but you want to do it on 3 characters because you get, again, 3 times the EXP. Now, the reason I didn't go on my EK into this dungeon is because the purpose of doing this dungeon is actually to farm your level 100 epic. Now, my Elven Knight already has her level 100 epic, so it's not as important for her to grab the items that are rewarded here. That's why she's not doing it. But my striker does not yet have that. So, but essentially what this dungeon is like the old Tower of the Dead, where you go up the tower and farm 100 floors, and then get, at the end of it, you would get a epic weapon pot, and you have a chance of getting, you know, the epic weapon pot for, you know, that level cap. In that case, level 85. Same thing in the 100 cap. You know, this time this essentially is a 50 floor Tower of the Dead. So you have less floors to go up, but they are a little bit harder to do than the normal towers, I would say. So this is normally the route I go on this character. Use my awakenings on that mini boss and come loop around here. And you know, you do have to be a little bit powerful to do this content. Oh, got punched there. Can actually counter hit this. Yep. And then hit her with some awakenings again. And nice, took her out. Yeah, this character is actually very efficient in this area. So I like doing that rotation right there, using my awakenings on the mini boss. And if you don't know how the pit dungeons work, essentially you get your cooldown reduced for how, depending on how fast you clear the room. So that's how I was able to get my awakenings back by the time the final boss came. And that's how the first and second pit work. I mean, I honestly, they're considered dailies. If you're not doing it as fast as I'm doing it, that's understandable. I'm just kind of, I've gotten a good rotation now. I've got good characters, and not to mention all of my characters that are at this point in the game have, you know, pre-graduate set. So they're actually very, very strong. But no longer the best in slot anymore, but definitely very, very strong. And of course, Tower of Dazzlement on all these guys. I won't bother doing all this content on all my characters because I'm so far behind. I honestly should not have even attempted this. Today is Saturday while I'm recording this, and I've only done, this is my second floor up the TOD, so, or Dazzlement, so you can clearly see I've been focusing on other things, which we'll jump to now. And here's the item, by the way, for doing the third, fourth, or fifth pit. You'll get a selection of the pit item. I do recommend doing the fifth pit if you're strong enough. Unlike the first and second pit where the rewards are the same, the third, fourth, and fifth pit do indeed scale with the difficulty. So do the fifth pit if you're strong enough. Take that route that I took to get your cooldowns back and get the damage buff as well. And then when you get a certain 1,000 of these selection of the rifts, which takes you 50 days to grind, you will get a level 100 epic weapon pot. And it's random, so you could, you know, this is just like level 85 cap. It's completely random. I could get a knuckle, gauntlet, tonfa, or boxing glove, or claw. So characters, you know, I'm gonna warn you guys right now. If you play a character like Slayer, for instance, or female fighter for that matter, you'll notice they have 5 different weapon types: Zanbato, katana, bludgeon, short sword, and lightsaber. The lightsaber is a weapon that is only usable for one of the subclasses, that being the Weapon Master, meaning that it's possible that you're playing any of the other subclasses and you end up with a lightsaber weapon and it's completely and utterly useless. So same thing can happen for the fighter here. You know, I could get a boxing glove on my brawler, for instance, who's also running this, and then what happens? Well, fuck, I guess, you know, I have to disassemble it because you can't even use it. You can't even put it on. So your likelihood is a little bit higher on other characters. If you look at the Knight pot, for instance, you'll see they took this lightsaber out, and I only have the short sword, katana, zanbato, and bludgeon, meaning that I have no possibility that I'm going to get a weapon that I can't use, which is great. But again, a lot of the characters in this game are very specialized towards that one weapon. So we're talking a 1 in 4 chance versus a 1 in 5 chance for some characters. Keep that in mind if you have a lot of characters that you're trying to bring into this content, that pot situation is a little bit limited for some characters. But guys, we're going to go ahead and jump over to the dark side. And we're going to go into Chest Town here and do another thing that I consider probably primary among all dailies, is that we want to try to do Basement of Pain and Black Shrine every day. This is for mostly your main characters. You can kind of see how strong this content is, especially on the expert difficulty. I mean, it's almost hitting my exorcism here. I'm going to jump into expert, but I'm going to tell you, you know, I honestly, at least with this character, my EK, no problem. Especially when I picked up my level 100 weapon, no problem doing the content very easily. On my striker, she also does it easily as well. But, you know, it's just not as fast. And I'm one of those people who, you know, when we do have to do dailies like this, because again, I remind you, this is a daily content. This is something you got to do every single day on all of your characters. It doesn't have an entry cost, you know, it doesn't cost anything to come into here. It does have an entry limit of 2 times per day. For each of the 2 dungeons, so you'll be essentially doing 4 runs, and these are not like immediate fast runs, you know. Then it does take a couple seconds to do these runs, and you do kind of need to be powerful, especially if you're doing on expert. So some people like partying up for this. I have found that you know, depending on the character, you know, my EK for instance probably can do it much faster than I can probably do it in a party, even with a satyr. So if you're strong enough to do the content, then you can definitely you know, do that. But I'm going to show off all 4 runs of this just because I want to demonstrate. Like, for instance, I skipped over it real quick, but there is a gimmick here. You guys can see at the bottom here we have different kind of buffs that we can get. We can actually change the buff that we get by hitting the lantern again. So you can get a buff by hitting the lantern. If you hit it again, you have an opportunity to change it. And then some of these lanterns actually reduce the curse that these lanterns are giving you, which is basically hit all the lanterns. And the ones that actually give you a buff, like this, I think is a pretty big damage buff. Yeah, 18% damage. Pick those up and use them because, trust me, the boss is going to be an asshole otherwise, you know. Big damage increase just for picking that up, especially if you're running solo, you know. Not something I would definitely skip over. And then, yeah, re-roll into it. Try to get the damage buff, obviously, and then, oh, shit, he's way over there. And then deal with the fact that some of these bosses are just jumping all over the place, which I like to bring up because a lot of people like complaining about EK not being able to deal with these. Trust me, it is annoying, but this is no less annoying on EK than it is for all the characters in the game. Sometimes deal with this asshole running around everywhere. Bring some potions in here. You know, I don't think there's a lot of great ways to avoid or just outplaying the boss sometimes, you know. He's just going to do these attacks that are, if you're trying to damage him at the same time, you're going to get hit. And I think it's even better explained or better showed off in the next dungeon that we do. But you guys can see the reason why we're doing this content right there, guys. The reason we're doing this content is because this content is considered a hell mode. In fact, it's considered 2 hell modes. You have 2 opportunities to get an epic. You have an opportunity when you kill the final boss here to get an epic, and then on the dungeon clearance, you actually have a good chance of getting one as well. And I say a good chance because I hear, you know, I've heard, this is hearsay, the cap hasn't been out here for that long, but I hear that the drop rate is even higher than the hell mode. So essentially consider this like hell mode plus. These runs do take longer to do, 2 minutes, but again, you got to consider this is 2 times, or essentially 4 times, per account, per character. So, you know, if you're doing runs that are 2 minutes long and you get a free hell mode, it does take a little bit of time to do. So I do want to mention, you know, you're doing this on all your characters. Maybe you might want to consider doing a lower difficulty, but this is the reason that we're doing it here, guys. It's for epics. I mean, that's a level 100 epic that can definitely boost your grinding a whole bunch. You know, it's something that you really can't ignore. It's one of the most important content that we have gotten, you know. Yes, donning Crevice and stuff was important for farming, you know, Harlem epics, but this is essentially the donning Crevice of this level cap, and it's giving you gear that is, you know, as good as donning Crevice is. You know, I love doing donning Crevice. Dude, it was only giving you Harlem epics. This is giving you the best in slot epic. Like that epic I just got, best in slot epic of the cap, level 100 cap. So here you can see I could re-roll that. I'm gonna keep the damage buff here. I find that the big important one that I got to re-roll, it's that last one that has a bunch of damage buff. But you can see I changed it to normal difficulty just to show off how much easier it is. You guys can see the mini bosses are dying and a couple skills on this character. We're making a short work of pretty much all these guys as well. So it's not as important to get the really strong buffs in this case, but just know it's an option. You can't keep re-rolling forever. You see I have only 3 opportunities to change it. Didn't get the damage buff, but again, since we're doing normal, I don't think it matters all that much. So, you can see, and I haven't really talked about it, but you see I run into the middle of this room every time. to initiate a trap, and that trap actually kills, even on the hardest difficulty, will kill all of those like trash mobs really easily. So worth going to just, you know, going into the center of that room and activating that trap. So this time I'm going to try to hit him with okay, I want him to run away from my attack here. Okay. And sometimes you get, you know, kind of depends on what skills that he decides to use there, but you know, we're talking the difference between 30 seconds and, you know, between the expert and the normal difficulty. On this character, I would say, yeah, I should be running expert because she's strong enough to do it. But, you know, if you tried this on, like, your character and you're getting, like, 3-4 minute runs by doing expert, then definitely boost it down to normal. You guys can see if you hover up over this, the only difference that the expert gives you is dungeon item drop rate increase, and the epic drop rate will increase as well. Now I'll tell you right now, and you'll get more black crystals, that is. Now I'll tell you right now that you can definitely, you know, that percentage is marginal at best, because, you know, I run normal on a lot of my other characters, not my main ones, but a lot of my other characters see me running this on normal, and they're getting epics left and right. I mean, this content is very useful for epics, man. Let me tell you, very satisfying system that you can abuse on so many different characters. Get a couple chances at Aelite and time crystals too. So if you do nothing else, like if you sign into DFO and you're playing your main characters and you just don't have a lot of time in the day, this is one of those dailies where I find, okay, forget everything else. Forget, you know, Valley of Fallen Souls, like I have for the past couple weeks. Forget about, you know, all that stuff, but don't forget about this, okay? It's something that, you know, it can easily progress you so much further than most other content in the game. Even, you know, I love the legendary farming right now. Legendary farming is something that, you know, is going to get you prepared for doing harder content like this on expert difficulty. But even that, you know, that can wait. This cannot wait. You know, you only get 2 runs a day. That's not a lot of runs. But you do get some of the best in slot gear right now. So, yeah, no excuse for why you shouldn't be doing this content every day. And I suggest doing it first thing because it does cost some FP. You guys can see my FP usage is a little bit here. This guy is an asshole, let me tell you. He is so annoying on a lot of different characters because he has attacks where, well, basically all of his attacks, he just super armors and powers through whatever you're trying to do. So, I mean, if you're trying to damage him, he's just going to fuck you up. And there's a great example of that. I don't know if I cancel that, whatever. Yeah, like this is a 2-hit swing, has a bunch of backswing, and yeah, even if you have super armor buff, he's just going to interrupt it anyway, and you can see right there, just got punished mega for using that move, just fine. He does have a berserk move that is very dangerous, but yeah, Elven Knight, you can imagine, has some trouble dealing with trying to chain rush, and then he just slams you in the head. Like, even the super armor buff doesn't matter. It's kind of weird. It's like, why are there moves that go through super armor? What's the point of super armor if you're just gonna have guys who just fucking hit through it anyway? So, but yeah, the cool thing about this dungeon is that there's 2 different versions. The first time that you do it, you fight that very annoying mini boss who just kind of super armors through everything. The second time you go through it, though, you'll actually fight a different mini boss, which is far easier than the first time. So maybe you want to do that strat where you're like, okay, that other guy's too hard, he's killing me all the time. Let me do it on normal on that guy, and then switch over and be a bitch, and then do, you know, fight the easy boss on expert. I don't recommend it, but if you're strong enough to do the content, I'm sure you capitalize. But yeah, like I said, you basically fight the same mini bosses, but in a different order. So that's what's happening here. Instead of this guy being the final boss, he's now a mini boss. And he had just interrupted my move again. That's what I get for trying to cast moves. Take long animation right in front of dudes, man. These guys are super annoying with their grouping. Okay, here. Hit him with this, hit him with this, hit him with this. Hit him with the lightning. Kind of just used all my skills. I'm going to have to wait now. I like how she has an ancient deer right there. That's actually an Elven Knight skill. any other skills, man. I really don't want her to get to her berserk attack though, because it's not terribly hard. It's just take some time. Okay, there you go. So yeah, much easier. She doesn't have like as debilitating attacks, and you got some Gabe here, and another one. Oh God, 2 epics out of 4 runs. Now, trust me, the drop rate is not that good, but there you go. You want to know why you do this content, boys? Well, how about 2 level 100 epics for free? This dungeon didn't cost me anything to go into, and I'm racking up a good collection here for, you know, if I'm getting 2 epics every day, bro, I might not even have to use time stones, man. Look at that shit. So, you know, I've gotten a lot of gear from this stuff, and it's worth it, dude. I mean, I don't have to. I just showed it right there. That's the reason you do that content. That's the reason I've been doing that content, at least on my top main characters. And hell, even my characters who aren't even like my top main ones, at least I'm bringing them through normal difficulty because they're strong enough to do it. You know, my monk is a fun character. In fact, he's actually on the same level as my striker in terms of gear because I have a full legendary right side here that I've been farming. So yeah, I mean, it's no excuse why you shouldn't be doing that content, guys. It is priority 1. Nothing else matters. Hells don't matter. You know, because hells are infinite, they're just restricted by your FP and time stones. That content is restricted just by the 4 runs that you get a day. So you got to do those 4 runs a day. So I don't know how I can emphasize that anymore, but I don't care what character you are. Run normal, run in a party, run expert if you're strong enough. But do that content because you can get fucking epics all day. Now, aside from that, though, guys, I mean, we have other dailies as well. Primarily, I want to talk a little bit about the legendary dungeons. I know it's daily. It's technically daily, but it's not what I consider daily for this series, you know. But this is content that is daily gated, and it has 10 runs a day that you can run it. Now, the reason why I want to emphasize this is because I want to spend a few seconds talking about this content because it is, you know, one of the most important things to do for all characters in the game. I mean, yes, I just talked about, you know, those 2 dungeons being just incredibly amazing. They are. But the thing that actually prepares you for doing that content efficiently is this content right here. You know, it's, yes, I do think it's more important to do the other content, but if you're not strong enough to do it, well, you got to get strong enough to do it. And I say strong enough in the sense that, you know, you got to have the right gear. You gotta have enough gear to be able to do that content. This is where you get that gear. Now, you guys can see right here, I'm already pre-graduate on the right side with the help of the legendary set, and you know, I'm pretty much set. So you're probably wondering, okay, Rick, why are you farming this dungeon on this character? Why don't you farm on somebody who actually needs it? Well, this character still needs it, but in a different way. Okay, I wanted to take a second to explain this because essentially, the armor set that you get here. There's 2 different types. You can see in my inventory I actually have pieces of one of the sets, the Corrupt Power of Darkness plate set. That's actually the damage set. So if you see a black piece of armor, that is your damage set. It's designed to do damage, you know, obviously. You know, you're getting that strictly as a DPS character. That's what you're going to get. Now, for synergy characters, they have a different set. And I haven't been able to get any pieces of it myself yet, but I'm going to be able to purchase at least a couple of them here, at least on this character. You can buy at least 3 of them after today. I need to get a full 5 set piece because they have a very unique set that's a little bit different in that it is a support or synergy set. And it's very unique. I wanted to take a few seconds to talk about that because, yes, if you don't have your prey upgraded stuff, if your stuff doesn't look like this, then you farm this content. But for characters that even have their super taste set, it might be in your best interest. I'm testing it out myself because I don't really know, to pick yourself up one of these white sets right here. I'm going to pick one up just to show you guys right here after I reduce my weight limit. Give me a sec. Okay, pick yourself up one of these white sets, and let me just show you right here why I'm picking these up. Is that these are actually synergy effects. Now, they look like damage sets. You guys can see right there, attack damage was 9, critical damage was 15. They are still damage sets in the set that in the sense that synergies are still damage characters. However, the set effect, you guys can see, it's a pretty sizable set effect. It's a 20% damage increase for all party members. This synergy effect can't be applied to Crusaders or Enchantress, and you only get 1 stack of it, I believe, for the whole party. You know, it's I'm almost certain it's for the whole party. So at least one person in the party, one synergy character, is expected to wear one of these sets. I mean, yes, it is going to be perhaps a nerf from the Super Tabor set. In fact, I know it's going to be one because this is already weaker than Super Tay, and you know, it's going to be taking a synergy effect nerf. Generally, when you have synergy effects, you're going to lose some damage for it, but your effectiveness in the party is definitely going to be realized here because you're giving everybody a 20% damage increase as well. And overall, in a party setting, if you're being a team player like that, it's going to result in far more damage than if you were just wearing, you know, your normal damage set. Now, I say far more damage. This is assuming that you have a very competent party and you have everybody, you know, geared out. Maybe if you're the pure DPS in your party as a synergy character, then maybe that's not the case. But you know, it's one of the first times in a long time. You know, this isn't the first time we've had synergy armor sets, but it's the first time in a long time that we have. You know, for instance, you know, back the last time we've had it is back in the tactical leader days where we used to have tactical set. And that was our last synergy armor set, and this is made viable again with the new, you know, product of wisdoms items. You guys can see here, you can make these level 85 sets viable again, and I'm gonna try to test some of them out, but you can make some of them viable again. But even yet, I've heard that this set right here that I'm trying to farm up for testing purposes is going to be as strong as, you know, a well upgraded tactical set. So, and tactical set back in the day used to be one of the best sets out there just because of how good that synergy effect was, and the fact that, you know, the damage was still comparable on that set. You know, it's not like you're losing a ton of damage. So I just wanted to take that time to explain that for synergy characters out there. Yes, it is in your best interest to pick up those Titan Guidestones every time you see them, but it's in your best interest to try and pick up an armor set. I know it's going to be a nerf from you guys who already have, you know, your Super Taste set, but it's going to be better in the long run because you're going to be giving, at least for harder content, you're going to give your party a better benefit in the end. Now, so that's the Land of Memory, guys. Okay, let me explain the dungeon. Let me do one more run. You can go into here 10 times a day for each dungeon. So a lot of people are noticing that this is a very strenuous grind. It's one of the largest grinds we've had in DFO, honestly. Most of the grind has been limited by, you know, time gated by, you know, weekly type content. They'll let you maybe go in a couple times a week, like Tabor's. You can go 3 times a day, 2 times, or 6 times a week. This is content that they'll let you go into. It resets every day, and they'll let you go in here 10 times a day if you want, per dungeon. So 20 runs a day for this dungeon. It's kind of absurd. It's a lot of runs. Let's put it that way. It's a lot of runs. And a lot of people are getting dissuaded by that. They're like, damn, this grind is pretty tough. But just keep in mind, okay, once you get your set, there's not a whole lot of reason to keep doing this dungeon. So, yes, the grind is pretty sizable, but you're not going to do it forever unless you want to, because I will say that the drop rate on the Legendaries is pretty high, and you get a bunch. This is the most optimal place to get Legendary Souls. So, just something to keep in mind. Now, the dungeon itself, okay, the Land of Memories, a lot of people like this dungeon because it's very fast. Okay, the dungeon layout is very quick. Now, you'll notice there are 3 mini-bosses. Essentially, whatever mini-boss that you leave alive will be the final boss at the end here. So we're going to skip over the one that's considered, I guess, the final boss, the Quan Yu looking dude. We're going to go underneath him, loop over here, kill these 2 mini-bosses, and then when we get to the final boss room, you'll see he'll actually just move to the final boss room. Right there, you see he's gone. And that's how this dungeon works. So generally people go this route because it's suspected that the final boss, if he's this Guan Yu looking dude, that he will has a higher drop chance. I don't know if the reality of that, if that's true or not, but that's the rumor. And I'm not going to argue with anybody on that one because, you know, the difference between, you know, killing him in a different order is it's negligible, if at all. So just go ahead and take that route if you want to be safe. The next dungeon, though, ain't so pretty, okay? Some people I've even heard just don't even want to do this dungeon because it's so annoying. This is not a hard dungeon. You'll notice I'm going in on the normal difficulty. Now, this is not a hard dungeon, okay? It's just as easy as the last dungeon. Same kind of idea is that you have these rooms that you got to go through. This is kind of like a straight path. Really nice for characters who can, you know, have the AoE to back it up, so you guys can see my paladin has no issue with some of the AoE that is required for this dungeon, but you know, characters like my brawler have some issue. You know, she doesn't have nearly as many big AoEs that my paladin does. In this kind of content, if you have to go this many rooms and wiping out this many guys, yeah, it's going to be a little bit challenging in comparison. So, but you'll notice I went into normal difficulty, and there's a reason for that. The reason is I do not want the final boss to transform. Okay, the secret with this final boss is if you can one-shot him, he isn't as annoying. If you can't one-shot him though, he is a bitch. So I'm going to show you what happens when you one-shot him. Okay, he just gets one shot. But if you exceed the HP of this enemy by 40%, so if he goes below 60% total HP, he goes berserk and he turns into his First Awakening Avenger transformation. And let me tell you, that content, that makes this content damn near unplayable because of how long the animation is. I mean, it's legit. Like, let's just go ahead and add 10, 15 seconds to your total dungeon clearance time. Just watching that guy go transform and then, you know, finally become hittable again. It's just very, very annoying, especially when you got to do it 10 times in one day. That shit is cancer. So hopefully they change that about him soon, because it's not dangerous at all. It's just a time waster. So I'll show how that looks like if I'm not able to one-shot him by using a different move here. So, but yeah, it's part of the reason, you know, this dungeon doesn't favor people who don't have, you know, instant one-shot moves. So if I'm not able to one-shot him, he does this. I can't hit him the whole time. He says, get out of the way, and now I can hit him, okay? So, you know, best idea, if you're not strong enough to just one-shot him with full HP, then bring his HP down a little bit, but not all the way down to 60%. Maybe take him down 30% HP, and then try to one-shot him from there. If you can't do that, then I guess fuck it, just let him transform. But it's one of the reasons why people don't like doing this dungeon, aside from the fact that you need more AoE moves to be able to deal with these rooms in an efficient manner. Like I said, though, Paladin is one of the most efficient grinders ever, so or in the game, one of the most versatile characters in the game. And this is another reason why I would say that, you know. Not only is she very quick in this kind of content, but, you know, she's making short work of these groups of mobs too. You know, she's fast, has great moves. You can afford to use your First Awakening and kill the room instantly and get your buffs back up. And then, you know, if you utilize your cooldowns a little bit more efficiently, you'd actually have just enough skills to be able to wipe out every single room and have your Second Awakening to spare at the end here. So, you know, get one shot. That's why I'm doing it on normal. On expert, I wouldn't have enough damage to one-shot him as efficiently. You guys can see here. Just this quick run, and I actually got, just got a legendary from, I didn't mention it, but the final boss as well as the dungeon clearance has a chance of giving a legendary. Unfortunately, you know, I'm going to go out on a limb. I might be wrong about this, but unfortunately, I don't think any of the gear that you get from here can be cursed. I have done, how many characters have I done through this content? I've been playing that content. I've done hundreds upon hundreds of runs in there on pretty much all of my main characters. Monk, this guy, this guy, this guy. They're all running it. This guy, this guy. I haven't seen a single tainted or cursed piece of legendary that drops from that content. So as far as I'm concerned, that dungeon doesn't drop cursed gear. Okay, so my pro tip on farming that dungeon for cursed gear doesn't seem to be viable, because it doesn't drop cursed gear. It seems to not drop it. I could be wrong about that. Maybe you're one of the few people who's gotten it, but let me just tell you, okay, I've gotten cursed gear from, you know, the other dungeons that I used to farm back in 95 cap, which again, I'm going to showcase that because I do consider it a daily content as well. Donning Crevice in Assault mode, okay? I've gotten legendaries to drop there, and just consider, okay, these are cursed legendaries, except I only get one chance, one enemy out of those 4 runs that you have to do for Assault mode. One enemy drops, has a chance of dropping a legendary, and I've still gotten cursed gear from there. I've gotten a whole inventory on so many other characters full of legendaries, and none of them have been cursed. So that leads me to believe that they don't drop cursed in there, and even if they did, the drop rate is awful. Okay, just run Assault mode, and more importantly than that, run Donning Crevice, because the drop rate is not bad, and you have a chance of whatever drops here being cursed. And that's kind of the main purpose you do this content. Well, the secondary purpose is to farm for your cursed gear. The main purpose that people still farmed on in Crevice, for instance, is actually for the epic soul. So if you get an epic to drop out of this content, you can actually get an epic soul out of it, which you can use to run the new hell mode. So this is essentially a way to farm yourself some hell mode, as well as farm yourself some tainted gear. So unfortunately, it's only 2 runs, and even if you don't get anything, you still get the aberrant crystals, which you can then use to upgrade your legendaries, your Harlem legendaries, into Harlem epics, and then get an epic soul that way if you want. You know, there's just a lot of reasons why this old content is still relevant. Now, I will say all of this costs FP. So if you're of the opinion that you know, you need your FP for other reasons, more important reasons, like for instance, farming your legendaries is more important than doing this content. Get your legendaries first, then worry about getting, you know, the amps on your gear. If you're of the opinion that, you know, you still need some other stuff, use your FP in that other area. I don't get any legendaries at all until my 4th run here. So this is actually a big FP dump. Not recommended if you're really highly stringent on your FP usage. You know, obviously, there's other content that is available right now that costs FP that you're not going to have enough FP to do. Particularly the legendary, or yeah, the 100 load legendary farming. So, anyway, wanted to show this off because I still think it's relevant. I still think it's worth doing. But maybe not a high priority for some of you guys right now. Let's go ahead and fast forward this since I've shown this plenty of times already. Alright, opened up the dungeon that actually matters. Now these 3 dungeons are still relevant because you get the Emblem of Heroes, which, you know, if you rack up a sizable amount of your aberrant crystals and you don't have any legendaries, well, this is, you know, using the tokens are a great way to get legendaries guaranteed. So they're kind of paired together with the aberrant crystals as far as I'm concerned. You get way more Emblem of Heroes than you do aberrant crystals, so you don't have to farm this as much if you're farming for legendaries. Maybe half or only a third as much as your epic grinding, probably. Anyway, guys, we didn't get a legendary, but like I said, you know, it's exciting when a legendary drops off of that guy because it has a pretty high likelihood of being cursed. So not a FP dump I recommend unless you didn't have anything better to do with it. You know, one other thing, last thing I want to mention about the legendary farming, I did kind of touch on it about the dark side, is that you get a lot of legendaries from it. In fact, you guys can see off of the equipment here, I mean, this is off a couple days here, you're able to get these legendaries, which are prey graduate level again. This bludgeon, for instance, if I didn't have this black sky weapon already, this bludgeon would be the next best thing. Aside from, you know, getting 100 epic, this is the next best thing, and it's pretty dang close to the black sky weapon. I mean, look at the comparison here. This gives me all attack 30%, 52 skill attack. This gives me 55 skill attack, 32 all attack. So it's only a couple percentage off of that. It's the next best thing. And I just found that off of dungeon clearance. But the main thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that you get a lot of legendary souls from any gear that you don't need. So you guys can see here, I'm going to disassemble this, and you get a lot of legendary souls. And that further kind of points out to the fact that you can transfer your legendaries from one character to another. So say, for instance, you know, I'm trying to farm up, you know, my plate set on this character and it drops on another one. I can transfer that piece onto this character. Or if I get one of those legendaries from the Harlem legendaries from Assault mode and it's cursed, I can transfer one of those as well. So say, for instance, I wanted to transfer this shoe to, say, my satyr who can utilize it better. You know, I can do that now very easily because it's very easy to farm a bunch of legendary souls. So just another thing that we can worry about now is that, okay, well, now the legendaries are even more sought out. And you can utilize your whole account to kind of make it easier. Any grind that you're doing, make it easier for other characters. Use that feature sparingly because there's going to be a point in time, you know, you're going to want to transfer maybe a level 100 legendary to another character to ease the farming. But essentially, you're only saving yourself like 2 days in doing that. Whereas the cursed gear is probably the priority you want to focus. Okay, guys, there are a ton of other dailies. Like, for instance, I can talk about the daily runs of Prey. They're kind of weekly, but the weekly runs of Prey, like Solo Prey, Solo Fiend Wars is still a thing. Solo Pandemonium War is still a thing. But the last thing I want to show off, guys, is a little bit of the Operation Hope. Now, they've made Operation Hope easier since the last time I think I've made a video about it. It's only 3 times a week, but they've increased the drop rate. a lot. Now, this character has already ran it this week, but I wanted to talk about it because if you're one of those veteran players that used to have a lot of the Otherverse reset tickets, what they have done, and if you check my inventory here, you can see I have 1,000 of these. What they have done is taken those Otherverse entry tickets and have converted them into Operation Admission tickets. And what they do is they allow you to go into the Operation Hope. You guys can see there, daily count 1 out of 2. Basically 2 extra times every single day. So this is on top of the 3 that you get per week. You can additionally go in every single day with one of those tickets 2 more additional times. Now, I don't have to explain why that is a really good thing. I mean, you're basically reducing the farm time tremendously, like real lifetime, that is. I mean, you're still going to be farming the dungeons, but you're going to be reducing the real lifetime because you don't have to wait weeks upon weeks just to, you know, get your entries in. You actually get free entries just by doing using those tickets. Now, unfortunately, that's not a feature that's available for most people. You know, a lot of people are not veterans. You know, I kind of take that for granted, is that, you know, there's a lot of items that people just weren't around to receive. But it is something that if you are somebody, maybe you've been taking a break. A lot of people have been taking breaks like a long time. And if you're one of those people, then you can, you know, potentially abuse that feature. Farming the Operation Hope is not an optional thing, okay? This is further cemented by the fact that 100 cap still uses the swap set, and the 100 cap epics are strong, but they're only reinforced by the idea of getting your swap set. And this guy is getting fucking hit every single time I walk into range. That is so annoying. Okay. So yeah, it's just like, you know, you got to complement these really strong sets, these legendaries and stuff like that, with a strong swap set. It's not optional. So make sure you abuse that and abuse this item as well. If you have this item, because you can really accelerate. I mean, this guy didn't have any pieces when I started this week on Tuesday, and he already has his weapons, shoes, you know, this sub-equipment, and I have almost 1,500 abyss fragments. I will after today, to buy 3 pieces guaranteed. And I just went the wrong way! That's what happens when you do commentary. Okay, maybe I won't have 1,500, but that's the thing, okay? You have access to this dungeon. Get your swap set immediately, and if you haven't run this dungeon yet, then this is something that I would say, you know, I've kind of talked about priorities, about what's important for 100 cap. And, you know, this is one of those things that you probably should have done before 100 cap got released, but if you didn't know about it, or, you know, maybe you weren't playing at the time and you had to catch up, you got to do this because they don't even have the old swap sets. They don't have the old Chronicle sets. I'm not even going to bother talking about them because I don't want to confuse anybody, but they don't even have that content anymore to get you those sets. So this is all you got. And not to mention, this is the best in slot anyway, so less confusion all around. You're able to farm it 2 extra times using those tickets. I can go one more time after this, and, you know, easy as that. Get a chance of getting some other pieces here to finish your set. Now you guys can see, you know, maybe you're concerned that you're not strong enough. It's a great time right now with the rental care service, because not only are they giving you a strong, decent set, but they're also giving you the swap set already. So essentially you have temporary gear, and using that temporary gear you can farm your permanent gear, which is what I'm doing here. You know, farm your permanent gear. You're definitely strong enough to do Operation Hope, especially if you reset. And, you know, you can even use your rental gear to farm the legendary sets that I was showing off a little bit earlier with my paladin. Farm those sets, okay? So use your temporary gear to farm yourself some stronger, or at least comparable in the case of Operation Hope set. Farm yourself stronger gear, and, you know, permanent gear is an important thing. Don't find yourself, you know, at the end of this event period and you didn't abuse, you know, what they're giving for free, because trust me, you're gonna really appreciate having those legendaries over nothing, which is how some people have it, or some people are gonna have it after this event period is over. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, abuse it now. If you're watching this video and it's 100 cap, you know, just got released, you know, that's we've had 100 cap for about a week or so. It's about to be 2 weeks here. You know, if you're watching this video at around that time, don't be that guy who really sits on his heels there and doesn't pull the trigger on this. You have to pull the trigger on it. Abuse all this thing. You know, if you're a new player, I've said it before, but this is the best time to come back to the game because of all of these systems. You know, the rental system is something that this character is abusing to the max. I mean, this guy didn't have anything but like a legendary set. Rental gear is way stronger than that, and it prepares you for farming the real hard content in the legendary farming 100 cap and all of that. So, and this kind of content. I mean, he wasn't even strong enough to do this kind of content. Now look at him. He is just making short work of all these guys. So, abuse it while you can. Get the things that I talked about in this video. You know, do those epic runs that I said, those 4 runs, the 2+2. First and foremost, if you're able to do them. If you're not strong enough to do them, get your legendary set. If you don't have your swap set, you know, it's not like you can't do one or the other. Do all of what you can. If you don't have your swap set yet, focus on getting your swap set, dude. I mean, do whatever you can to get into these runs here, because you have to do them, and do extra runs if you have to, because this swap set really is night and day difference between how strong you're going to be. Now, I can't believe I missed with every fucking skill I just threw at this guy, but now I'm getting juggled. Get me out of here. Okay. Man, this character is trash. There's so much I could have talked about in this video, but I don't want it to be too bogged down with old kind of stuff. For instance, you know, like I said, all the raid dailies that we now have. You know, we don't have Luke anymore, but we still have, you know, Fiend, War, and Prey. Do your dailies for those. If you don't want to join the actual raid, then don't do, you know, the guide mode at the very least. You know, there's still things like the Pandemonium meeting. You know, I've already done that yesterday, but, you know, if we go into the Pandemonium meeting channel, you want to focus on getting the items that you get out of there, which are excellent beads, you know, excellent. If you still need your super taste set and you're close to finishing it, then this will help you get your super taste set faster. I don't recommend it, but I guess you can get some Abyss fragments here as well. I mean, if you have nothing else better to spend it on, then I guess you can use that for the Abyss fragments. You know, excellent beads out of here. Reasons why you do this kind of content every week. And shoot, guys, that's about it. I mean, there's, like I said, there's a lot more that I do, but in relation to 100 cap, these are the dailies that I want you guys to focus on. Maybe I do want to show at least one run of this, but Ghent Palace dungeon is where you're going to want to go to farm your uniques. Now, the reason I don't mention it is because I think, at least right now, it's something that you can kind of bypass because of the rental gear. The rental gear is going to be better than this Ghent gear, but again, you got to remember the rental gear is only temporary. But yeah, you do have access to the Ghent Palace dungeon. That's also a daily that you can run 20 times a day. And while you're leveling, it's actually really nice. You guys can see I'm actually level 97 here. You guys can see I got a quest from this guy right here, Edwin, who will let you have a EXP pot. And then the shop right here, I can purchase, you know, my weapons here. These weapons are like on the same level as like Harlem's, Tabor's, and stuff like that of the previous cap. But again, because we have the rental gear right now, you know, you can farm the legendaries right away. You don't have to worry about this set. But maybe you're not as diligent about getting your legendary set, then maybe you want to get a more permanent set in the meantime. The Ghent Palace is a nice dungeon for that. It's a very straightforward dungeon. You know, you guys can see right here, I already have a Harlem set, so I'm pretty much over gear for for what this dungeon is expected to be farmed for. But if you are like new to the game, or you didn't capitalize on the rental service, then this is where you're going to go to farm your gear set to prepare you to farm for those legendaries. Now, obviously, this is not something that is you're going to be doing for a long time like the legendaries are, but it's something that you have to do if you don't have a comparable set already like I do. And you'll just farm this. It is a very easy farm. You guys can see right here, I get a ton of these tokens. I need 600 to get a piece, so essentially you're getting a piece every 2 runs or so. That's a very, very quick farm per piece. I was able on my Vagabond, just for testing purposes, I was able to get a whole set, a completed set, off of 20 runs. It took me 1 day to do this. It might take you 2 days if you're not very lucky. I got some pieces to drop out right for me, but hell, I'm doing expert right now. Maybe expert's a little bit more annoying. Again, you have the option always to do the normal difficulty. I went the wrong way here. You have the option to do the normal difficulty, which should be easy enough for pretty much anybody in any gear set. I mean, seriously, these guys are not hard at all. You know, do that for a set that is going to be like Harlem level, and you only have to farm it for 1 or 2 days at max. So if you're not diligent enough in utilizing your rental gear right now, then do this kind of content, and at least you'll have that set to fall back on when the rental gear expires. So, which, you know, maybe you want to take the safety net and just do it anyway, but I do recommend just getting the legendary set. Again, like I said, if you come into here in the future and you don't have a set strong enough, this is what you got to do, and you only got to do it for one day. So I'm not even going to bother talking about it ever again because it's not very useful. I guess you do get some unique souls out of it. If you need unique souls, this is the most efficient place to get unique souls. Hell, you can sell the unique that you get to drop, and they actually sell for some gold as well, not a terrible amount. And I'm not getting very lucky here, but the boss as well as the clearance will get you some uniques as well, straight up. So yeah, those are the new contents that have been added. We don't have Oculus Rift yet, but you know, in the meantime, this is what we've got to do to prepare for that content coming out. Oculus Rift, Sirocco Raid, Third Awakenings, a lot of things to look forward to, but for now, post-100 cap, these are the things we got to focus on if your characters are not at that level. All right, one thing that I did forget to talk about, and I'm back on my EK to show this off, is that in the Dark Elf Ruins, there is a new area. You might not know about this. It's called the Cursed Ruby. Essentially what this dungeon is, it is a weekly dungeon. You guys can see here. You get access to it. It like resets every week, and you get various prizes for doing it. And it's a floor dungeon. So you can go through every like floor will cost 3 FP, and you can just go as deep as you can. Now, I've managed to get to floor 30, and this was not easy at all. But you don't have to go that deep. I was just kind of challenging myself. But you can see every 5 floors you actually get these chests, which you can then use the, you know, you can receive a certain amount of chests per week. Again, like I said, it resets every week. So I'm going to be picking up these chests here, and I don't even have to, you know, if I think I can get better chests at the end of this, I receive these gold chests, and you can see kind of the reason why we do the Cursed Rubies. You guys can get some 40 Time Guide Stones out of this. You guys can see getting a bunch of Aelites. I have gotten better Time Guide Stone boxes that can give you like 110 Time Guide Stones. But you can see the reason that you do it is for these rewards, Time Guide Stones as well as Aelite. But the content itself is something that is very, that gets very challenging. It will take, you know, at this level, it's going to take me, you know, minutes to do each floor because the mobs here are so powerful. So my recommendation is to do, you know, all the way up until the content starts getting too difficult. You know, you don't have to get every chest there, but you guys can see, like, I had to use all my skills, and he's still not dead. These guys are way too goddamn tanky for me. And, you know, when you get to this high in the floor, or this low, I should say, you know, it's just not worth it anymore. I mean, dude, unless you want to practice your chain rush here. And you have to kill the final boss as well. Now, there's no risk of leaving, you know, if I leave here, and then, you know, you can go right back in. So there's only a fatigue cost associated with jumping into here. But aside from that, guys, not a real big reason in going much deeper than I have right now. So again, something that you can open up the ruby chest right here. You guys can see dragging the treasure chest. Now the cool thing about this dungeon is that it's actually character bound, so you can actually do it on as many characters as you want. But it will cost them FP. It will cost them a little bit of time to farm this content. This is not something that I recommend if you're kind of strapped for time. But it is a character-bound thing, so if you're trying to farm, you know, you guys can see I'm on the first floor on this character, and my ruby chests, at least the rewards here are account-bound, but the chests themselves are character-bound. So, but yeah, that's how the Cursed Ruby works, guys. I mean, yeah, five times you can do it, and you can use multiple characters. So maybe you want to, like, for instance, use 2 or 3 of your best main characters and only go up like 20, 15, 20 floors, and then you'll have enough chests to be able to, you know, set yourself straight for the week. It's a pretty quick one. It does cost a little bit of FP, so I guess it is worthwhile to consider it, but I do think it's worth it. You do get a lot of the Aelite, which is something you're going to need for, you know, enchanting your gear, or inheriting or engraving your gear, I should say. It's a material you're going to be using a lot, and it does cost a lot of money, and hell, if you don't need that item, then you can at least sell it, and it does sell for quite a bit of gold too. And not to mention the Time Guide Stone is something we're going to be using all the time anyway. So speaking of the Time Guide Stone though, guys, let's go ahead and get onto the Falacia and talk about our last content. Okay, say for instance, none of the other content I've talked about in this video has been worthwhile to you. Rick, I'm already pre-graduate. I don't need to do any of that. Then you probably don't need me to tell you what the last thing to do is, and that is farm the Guide of Wisdom. A dungeon that you are going to be farming at some point when you're done with all this other stuff. You're just going to have nothing else better to do but to try to get the better gear set. You know, this is all kind of in preparation. All the stuff we've been doing is in preparation for this kind of content. So getting strong enough to do this in an efficient manner is probably more important than farming it initially because, you know, you're going to be limited by the resources it takes to get into here. You need a ton of time guide stones. And it's something that is not easy to come by. It's going to cost you a lot of epic souls, a lot of DI if you have them, a lot of just materials in general. You guys can see if you can click up here, you actually have access to the Epic Wish, which you can set up. And if you're lucky enough to get it to drop, it will show up as a Mythic Shine on the orb right here, which is awesome. You know, it's very exciting when you see that Mythic Shine. But I've heard some rumors that say if you set it up as your wish list, then it takes away from your Mythic Shine. That is not the case. I've heard a lot of people who have gotten Mythics that have full, you know, wishlist epics. That is a rumor. It's definitely fake news on that one, not substantiated. Because I've seen it happen that people get a lot of Mythics and they still have their full wishlist. So put your wishlist on and you'll get excited when you see it, the orb turn, you know, rainbow colored. Now in my case, you know, I luckily play a character who has lingering hitboxes on their awakenings, which is, you know, a lot of characters actually have that. You know, another good example is, you know, female Nen, when she uses her 2A, she actually has a lingering hitbox on her awakening. And you can see when you have that and you are pretty powerful, like I am now with this weapon I picked up, you can actually just, you know, nuke multiple bosses with one skill. And in fact, I can actually just nuke all of the enemies that come out of there because the lingering hitbox is that long. I could just like use it right here and everything's going to die from this. It's crazy how good this is at killing everybody here. I mean, the lingering hitbox lasted so long that I killed the normal guys that spawned, I killed the mini boss that spawned, and then I nuked the final boss, and I killed the orb. I killed like 4 sets of enemies that spawned with one skill. It's crazy good. Maybe you'll have to kill like, depending on how lingering your hitboxes are, you'll have to kill, you know, more or less of the enemies. But for EK, she just has the best skill for this, and it makes my hell grinding so easy. How it works, I mean, farming hells, you're going to see an orb color. It could be purple, which has a very small chance of dropping epics. An epic shined, yellow shined orb will give you an epic guaranteed, at least one. And then the mythic, like I said earlier, is going to be either for your wishlist epic or for an actual mythic epic, which is very highly desirable. Unfortunately, not getting very much luck there, but you are noticing that I am skipping over all the items like I normally do in all content, but more importantly in this dungeon is the fact that this is a dungeon that is a belt type dungeon, which is very awesome because it allows you to use the set item command. And because this is actually considered one large room, it will actually suck up all the items on the whole map. And there you can see my epic dropping right there. 2, 3, triple epic drop. Oh, pig lucker. Oh my god. Okay, we got the Haugi's bone ring. I'm showing off a little bit of the... Oh my god, I can't believe I got triple, man. I've never seen that shit. So we got a tradable epic. These are tradable via the NPC, and they are actually, this one in particular is like a very strong, just single piece of gear that has a counterattack mod. So Haugi's back, boys. Got a weapon as well as this shoulder right there. And that was off of a gold orb right there. You guys can see the gold orb is a guaranteed epic. At least one, like I said. Should it drop 3? Get fucking owned. So... very quick hell runs for me, and this is the last thing I'm doing really on. I have so many characters I play, guys, and you know, God, I can't believe I got 3. I have so many characters I play that you know, I can't afford to do this kind of content on everybody. You know, I can't afford to use all my time guide stones on like this character, my striker, my paladin, my brawler. You know, it's just too many resources. So right now, for now, only my EK is getting the hell mode treatment. Everybody else is farming, you know, the 2+2, and they're keeping up with their epics in that way. But in terms of like using time guide stones, I've just found it to be most efficient right now to just focus on my EK, and we'll worry about those other guys when it matters a little bit more. The cool thing about this level cap is that, okay, we're talking about like these legendaries, which are like pre-graduate level, and then interweaving that with level 100 cap gear, epic gear. It's not that hard to pick up something that is going to be something stronger than what you have in the 2-piece set effect. I mean, you can get 2 epics that are part of a set effect, and if they're like your accessories or something, they're going to be stronger than the 3-piece effect that's given by the, you know, the Prey upgraded stuff. Like, that's how strong these epics are. You can get a 2-set effect and then put it on right away. Some of the sets for the armor set, for instance, that can happen. I mean, you just basically frank an epic all day and you're going to be set. So you do all this farming for the guaranteed gear and then replace it right away when you start getting some epics from either the 2+2 or the hell modes here. And, you know, I like this cap for that reason, you know. I still have an option to, you know, gear out my alts in strong gear. And then when I actually finally decide to start doing some hell modes with them, they're going to have a good head start because of the freebie 2+2 epics that they're getting. But anyway, guys, that's all that I have to talk about with 100 cap. I wanted to focus most of my dailies around things that are important in 100 cap. You know, the legendaries, the swap set, definitely. The 2+2, goddamn, the 2+2. Do not forget that. And then, you know, Cursed Ruby's pretty tight. And all of the other stuff that still exists that is important, you know, Valley of the Fallen Souls, that kind of stuff is still relevant. And all the raids still relevant too. So, yeah, guys, make sure you guys abuse all of those features. I wanted to show that off in a big video. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If not helpful, entertaining. And I'm done for tonight. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you nights later.